Good evening, it's Freddie Vasquez, Basement Politics. I'm back on tonight. I have a guest with me, resident of the city of Yonkers, wants to just clear the air and talk about some of her experiences as an advocate. Join me tonight. Good evening, it's Freddie Vasquez, Basement Politics Unfiltered. Tonight, I want to continue with my defamation series. I got a guest on, city resident advocate here in the city of Yonkers, wants to clear her name. So I want to give it the opportunity. Please help me welcome Carolyn Elizabeth Marie.
Good evening, Freddie. How are you?
Good. Are you there? You're there. I can hear you. And if anyone can hear her, folks, just let me know if you can't hear Carolyn, so I can make sure that you guys can. So anyway, good evening, Carolyn. How you doing? Thank you for joining me tonight.
Good evening, and thank you very much for having me on your show.
Oh, you're very welcome. Well, you did reach out to me, and you wanted to come on, and I believe some of it has to do with the interview that the majority leader gave. I know you asked a question. She was doing an interview live with the Yonkers Voice, and you asked a question, and then it kind of took a life of its own, right? It kind of went left a little bit there. So where do you want to start? First of all, introduce yourself and just kind of let folks who may not be familiar with you know who you are, what you've done here in the community, what do you do currently in the community, so they can be familiar with you.
Well, my name is Carolyn Elizabeth Marie, and I am a social worker here in the city of Yonkers. I started working in Yonkers in 1993 when my son was 2 with emergency transitional housing for the homeless. So I have a very large knowledge of the different type of housing throughout Yonkers, all the way back to 1993, when homelessness was basically an epidemic and everybody was making money off homeless families. We're talking about the politicians, the landlords, ESS, the non-for-profits, a building like 170 South Broadway, which is across from McDonald's on South Broadway, beautiful building. They were getting $3,000 a month for a family of 4. Okay, instead of paying the rent, which always blew my mind, why not pay the $900 rent instead of paying $3,000 for that one family? And they're still homeless. They're still categorized as homeless. And of course, that $3,000 also was case management in there. If anything happened to the apartment repairs,
right. Well,
the maintenance.
I'm just going to cut you off, Karen, because I don't want to go into something. Okay. You're definitely an advocate. You've advocated a lot in 30 years, I believe you mentioned to me, and also very recently, you advocated for the seniors over at the Bernice Breckman Center, where you actually called a scammer, and I mentioned that on the podcast. How did you feel about that? Just want to ask you.
Well, when you get paid $0 and 0 cents and you do something purely from your heart, there's absolutely nothing that I do for any money. I put money out, if anything. It's just very upsetting that, but I also know it was because he was extremely frustrated at the seniors that continued to attack him, and what he was saying, continued to try to say it's only been closed for 7 months, and they were saying no, 3 years.
And when she says he, she means Councilman John Rubo of the 4th District. Just a little background, the senior center had been closed for a while. Many of the seniors were upset now because it needed a lot of renovations. Even before the pandemic, some seniors were injured. The bathrooms were not handicap accessible. So there was a lot of work that needed to be done. And they were dragging their feet, and you pushed hard. You fought hard with the seniors as well, and you were there. And I remember I went there. Yonkers Voice was there also live. He covered it, and that was where Councilman Rubo on Yonkers Voice Live called you a scammer. But I want to say that the seniors came to your defense quickly. They did. They were like, no, that's crazy. She's been helping us. She's the only one that's been helping us. So I want to shout out to them, the seniors, for having your back there. But you're not here to talk about Councilman John Rubo tonight. You're here to talk about the interview that was done on the Yonkers Voice with Councilwoman and Majority Leader Tasha Diaz, correct?
Correct. And that's why I was giving you a little background of how I know about different housings, because in her interview, she said that she was going to educate me to come to
Right.
her office.
Well, let
I
me
work
get
in
into that.
corporate. Yeah,
Let's get into
go
that
ahead. I'm
part.
sorry.
What you want us? I'm going to
Sure.
start with the interview first, that she
Sure.
did, and where you asked a question, and then the majority leader answered, and then kind of went on.
This one comes from Caroline Elizabeth Marie. Voting down the affordable housing was unacceptable, especially when she could have made a true change for those in need. The food is not supplied from her. It is from a pantry. That is retail politics. We need affordable housing increasing desperately. Why won't she reintroduce the affordable housing ordinance with at least 5% increase? Something is better than absolutely nothing. Show us, don't tell us.
First and foremost, this Carolyn Marie that you refer to, this woman knows nothing about me. She's another one that knows nothing about me and has constantly attacked me for no apparent reason at all. I had one conversation with her. She asked about Chromebooks. I got the Chromebooks for the school. I never heard from her again. She is someone that is always on social media to attack people. But
Okay, I want to stop it there. So go ahead, Carolyn.
So what I want to say there is that she's always on social. What did she? I'm sorry.
Well, she was talking about the
didn't catch
Chromebooks. I'm not sure if you have some texting going on or something there, but it's
Yeah,
kind of just.
that was my daughter. I was
Oh,
being
okay.
distracted.
Just
I'm sorry.
hit the silence thing there on the sides,
Yeah,
so it
the
just
million.
vibrates. But she said something about Chromebooks that she said
Okay.
you did wanted something about Chromebooks, and then she helped you out with that, and then you disappeared. Tell me about that.
No. So what ended up happening was that she had allocated money for $1 million, which is taxpayer money. Let's be serious. It's not coming out of her pocket. It's taxpayer money, and she allocated the $1 million. And I had called her after she allocated the $1 million because we have 27,000 children in our school system, and $1 million isn't enough money. We needed more money.
Well,
So,
I mean, I'll play devil's advocate here. I mean, $1 million is better than, as she like to say, nothing, right? Zero.
well, it is, but what I'm saying is she could have allocated more. So that's
Right.
what my call to her was. And it took a spin because she started telling me how she was, when she came into office and even before office, that they were abusing her and they were bullying her. And she told the mayor that if they keep it up, that she's going to end up physically defending herself to some of these people. Now, she didn't mention who the people were. And I said, well, that's horrible. And we went over the fact that the mayor said that he could have maybe for $500 how many Chromebooks they could get. I said, first of all, tell him that, and I gave her the sale that was going on. They're going for $250, so you can get a couple of thousand. I think it was 4,000 or 5,000 Chromebooks, as opposed to what the mayor wanted to do at the time, which he wasn't unaware of the sales they had going on. So she said that, all right, let me look into that. I'll speak to the mayor, and then I'll get back to you. And she never called me back. And this is after she allocated the money, but it wasn't enough money.
Right. Well, they got some Chromebooks, $1 million, but you felt it wasn't enough. She says you sit at home on Facebook. You just sit at home on Facebook and you criticize all day. That's what you do. And I happen to know that that's not true, right? I've been to things that you were part of, again, like the Bernice Breckman Center. The Yonkers Voice there was also a part of that. He was there filming it. How do you feel about that? Someone who's advocated for so long to be told that you don't do anything but sit behind a computer on Facebook.
Well, first of all, she's probably talking about the pandemic when we were all shut down at home. So during the pandemic, there was meetings that we would watch different meetings, and I've always, I'm not very smart when it comes to, or let me not say smart, I'm not very educated in politics. I could not stand politics my whole life. I was the girl that worked for nonprofits that was always begging for my program to be funded, and it would be myself and a friend of mine that worked for my sister's place, and we'd have to get up to these politicians and beg them to please fund my program. I was working with the homeless. She was working with domestic violence. They should have been funding them both. So, I was never happy at that point where, with politics.
Right.
So, what ended up happening was during the pandemic, I was watching and before the pandemic, actually, I started watching all of these city council meetings to educate myself. What are they actually doing? What are they actually legislating?
Right.
What are they doing with taxpayer money? I knew
Well,
what
that's
things
the thing.
I would like to do.
Not to control Canada, but that's some of the things that I say, right? I
Yeah.
mentioned on my show, I say, are they aware of actually what's going on? What are the actual numbers? Like when I was watching some of the city budget, meetings, do they really know about foundation aid and how the developments are
Right.
going to affect that, the income that's going to bring, the tax revenue, even though they're getting pilots, which are, taxes that are decreased, they pay a smaller amount instead of the actual liabilities, but it's still they're generating taxes and stuff like that. Do they understand that so they can ask questions, right? Not speak about penmanship, and Anthony Laurenti, where he just spun in circles trying to find where the Yonkers public school people went wrong, right? So that's one of the things that I mentioned also. How well versed are they in politics themselves?
Right. I mean, and you brought that up. It's ironic because when I was listening and Tasha brought up to Casada, I want you to put that on there. I want the children to learn how to write scripts, because when I would get my petitions and I'd go to the Board of Elections, they won't accept some of the signatures because they're not in script. Right. And in my mind, I'm thinking that's what she's worried about. You're the chair of education, which, for the record, her bio is not on the city hall, on the city website. So I have no idea what type of education this woman has, or why does she qualify to be chair of education. I think at one point she said in one of the meetings that nobody else wanted it, so she took it. But that's not the way these things should happen.
Right.
Like Anthony Bronte, he is an accountant, so it's wonderful that he is. What is he chair of? Right? Yeah, he's chair of whatever that department is. So, but when Finance. He said that. And I've asked that question because my youngest was and she's 16. She didn't learn script in school. And I questioned that. And they said, well, now with the technology, computers and phones.
Well, right. She made it seem that, like it was just, she wanted them to learn script solely so they can sign petitions, right? I mean, and, granted, maybe, they should know how to sign their name. I mean, I sign things, often contracts, checks for my employees. So, knowing how to sign your name is very important. However, to present it in a, or put in the context of they have to, learn to sign their name so they can sign petitions. So when I go, people don't know how to sign, that's just kind of not the way to put it. But I get that that's somewhat important. However, there are bigger issues. I think one of them was the fact that 75% of our students are living at or below the poverty line. They're economically disadvantaged. And so questions like that, about those statistics were not answered or not asked, I should say. And, what are you doing as the chair of the education committee to address that, especially when 77% of the students are Black and Latino? Right. And that's who she says she fights for. I want to move on a little bit on this interview. I want to finish it. So the question, finish her answer.
That's the person that needs to be out there in the forefront. If you can sit on social media and criticize and talk about what I'm not doing, let me ask you, what are you doing?
Actions, not words.
Exactly. Because you talk about affordable housing, but in me talking to her and listening to the comments that she has left, she doesn't know about affordable housing. She has no clue. She's ranting on about something she is not educated on. And if she would call my office and sit down with me and stop listening to what she hears, I can formally educate her about affordable housing. And the instance about affordable housing, because that's the first thing that she always pulls up. She voted against. Who said that I never was going to reintroduce that? If you introduce a law such as that, it has to be correct. The way the first law was introduced, I never got a seat at the table. That is number one. The people that elected me for District 3 elected me to get a seat at the table.
I want to stop it there. She says that that you attack on the affordable housing, and that that you don't understand affordable housing. And what do you do? First of all, again, what do you do? What does she do? Instead of being behind, you do a lot, Karen, and I've witnessed that. And this is why I have my issues with the Yonkers Voice, because he knows that you don't do a lot of stuff, and we'll show some of the other stuff that you've been involved in and helping with the schools, with the Yonkers Parent Seeking Solution and stuff like that. But let's go to the affordable housing, because that's a big thing. She says she wants to educate you on affordable housing. However, I don't I don't know if she's so much educated herself, because she voted no for two reasons. One, because it didn't encompass things that were pertaining to low income housing, which had nothing to do with the affordable housing ordinance, and also because she did not receive a seat at the table. And I said, when you're elected, that's your seat at the table. What do you say about that? Right. 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 So I want to get to that. I'm sorry. I think I want to touch on that. I want to touch on that also, right? Because yes, Mike Cater altered the affordable housing ordinance. From my understanding, he brought Shanae Williams in because he thought that he can sell it better if Shanae Williams was attached to it. Then the majority leader joined the two of them. Now became the three, right? That were pushing for the 20% housing ordinance. But what I don't understand is, why would you support something that you didn't know anything about? Why would you wait till the last minute to then say something about it, right? If you didn't have a seat at the table, if you felt you needed to give some input, you should have. Shanae Williams had some input in it. That's why input into it. That's why Mike Cater brought it to her so she can present it. And she said, sure, but I want to make some adjustment to it. And he was fine with that. So that's just a lame excuse. I think it's just, just again, an excuse, something that she's saying because she flipped on the housing ordinance, in my opinion, to become majority leader, because that's what she was told to do. Right. Right. No, I mean, well, I am not sure. No, no.
Sure.
Oh, Karen, I'm sorry, I had you off. I know that you're not. I'm sorry. We're talking about the housing ordinance, and what I was saying is that she says Carolyn doesn't understand what the housing ordinance. That she has no clue. She wants to formally educate her, and on the housing. And I was saying that maybe she needed some education on the on affordable housing. But Carolyn does have experience with housing. You tell them again what you've done. I'm sorry, I had you on the mute.
Oh, no worries. I have almost 30 years experience. Next year will be 30 years since 1993 with every housing from emergency transitional housing for the homeless. And that's the bottom where you start there and then work your way up to the different low income housing, affordable housing. So, and what I wanted to make clear was, one, I don't know, did you get the part where it wasn't her that introduced it the first time?
Right,
So
and that's what
her
I
saying
said. So
that,
it was Mike
right,
Cater that altered it. Shanae
right,
Williams became a part of it because he thought he can sell it better to the rest of the council if she was a part of it. She, then did her thing, made some adjustments, and then the majority leader jumped on it. And I said that she could have, that was her seat at the table right there. Why wait to the last possible
right,
minute to say, well, it's not what it's not good enough, And then she says, how does she know that I'm not working on one? And we're gonna, because you haven't. And this should have been introduced right
right.
away. It should have been revised quickly and
And
then reintroduced, because there is a housing ordinance, or housing, I should say, crisis, affordable housing crisis. She's not
absolutely.
acting like there's a
And
crisis.
And the
Right.
other thing is too, the fact that, and I don't know if this was, if I was muted for this part, but it wasn't that they were asking for a full 20%. We already had the 10% in.
Right.
The 10% was already there for every developer that came into Yonkers that had to give affordable housing in each of their buildings. We were asking for another 10%, which was 1% for each year that Mayor Mike Fano has been in office, that he has not increased the affordable housing. So that was what made it 20%.
Right. So
Okay,
they,
so
so
you're talking
it was an
these are-
increase of additional 10%. Currently, it's at 10%.
Yeah.
Just in case for people who may not know
Right.
that it was already at 10%, they're looking to add an additional 10% to make it 20%. The argument was that the developers would not then build or develop here in Yonkers. And I've had conversations with people who I think are knowledgeable in this thing, and they said that's not true. It's a matter of how many people are getting paid, right? How much money they have to lay out to certain individuals. Also a timing thing with the building department. If they can't get their permits pushed through quickly, you know, time is money. That that also factored in to why maybe they couldn't do another 10%. And she says we want to reintroduce it, but I think that they're waiting for the developments to go up, and then they're going to reintroduce it. At that point, it'll be too late. I want to just finish playing the question, her answering the question. She goes on also to accuse you of calling Feeding Westchester to try to get her distribution canceled or whatever. Let me play that, and then I'll talk to you about it.
When that was put together, I never got a seat at the table. From then, I was attacked. Flip-flops were thrown at me. There was a rally against me. Nobody never asked Tasha Diaz's side of why. Because that affordable housing ordinance that was written was fluff. It was nothing. It would have done nothing. 20% of what? As she just said, something is better than nothing. So if we would have voted 20%, the builders would have left and we would have gotten in nothing. So I'd rather give them something than nothing. You just answered your own question. Thank you very much, Carolyn Marie.
No.
But if you want to get educated when it comes to affordable housing, give me a call. And when you talk about food is not.
Before she gets into that, I want to say, you know, I don't understand though. This is what I don't understand. You don't represent the people that are going to be moving into those luxury buildings, Majority Leader. The majority of your constituents need affordable housing. So if by you not, approving or voting yes on the affordable housing to increase that ordinance to 20%, allowing for double the amount of units, you're actually hurting your constituents because a majority of them need affordable housing or low-income housing, Majority Leader. They're not going to be able to afford to pay the market rate rent. So why are you so concerned with the developers leaving if they're not building anything for your constituents? I don't understand that. Let me just finish up. She's going to get into the food thing real quick, and then I'll let you.
What I was elected for, I never said I got elected for food. But when people do get elected, when you're elected to lead the pack as a leader. I've led since day one. I got elected in 2019. I was doing and implementing things as councilwoman-elect. I was not sworn in yet. It seems as if I'm the one that's at attack because I'm the one doing the most work. What about the ones that don't do anything? I see no attacks on them. I just see attacks on everything I do. It seems as if because of where I come from, Carolyn Marie feels as if I shouldn't be in this capacity. So she keeps attacking me, and that is wrong. That's a form of discrimination. What she's doing, she's discriminated against me. She feels as if because I'm from the south side of Yonkers, that I don't deserve to be where I am now. And that is wrong of her. She came to a function that I held at School 13. Her child wanted to engage in the activities. Her as a mother pulled her child away and told her no. How could you do that? I would never do that. You can't do that to children. How could people nowadays want to instill that kind of emotions into their children? Everything that we're going through right now, we still have people like that want to be demonic. People like that want to divide the city. People like that sit at home and criticize. I have not seen this woman. I couldn't even tell you what she looks like. She hasn't been out.
Well, Caroline, Councilwoman, Majority.
All right, so she calls you demonic. Okay, you're demonic, right? And she says, and she uses the race card. So you don't want someone from her side of town, someone, a black woman to succeed. She goes, why don't you go after other council members who aren't doing nothing? That's what I'm assuming she means by other people who aren't doing anything. So she's throwing other council members under the bus. And then she says that you were, you did not allow your daughter to participate in a school function. You were mean. What kind of mother are you? But then she goes on to say that she's never seen you and doesn't know what you look like. Go ahead, Karen.
Well, there you go. She's a liar. This is what this woman is. And she has I-itis. And by what I mean I-itis is me. In fact, on this interview, if you look down a little bit, there's a comment from somebody saying, hello, Tasha, it's not just I. What about the rest of us? out there helping you. And, you know, at one point she does try to address that, but she's always my event. That was a police appreciation event, I believe, that she's talking about back in May of last year. And I was actually there to stop in to see the event. It was not her event. It was her. Well, it was hers, I believe. Councilman Rubo, and it had, and I believe TAL supplied the food for a barbecue, and there was music. And my daughter was almost 16 years old at the time. They had a jumpy house. So this is where you know this woman is lying. And the worst kind of woman is that tries to bring up someone's children. Now that is as low as you can go. Right. Okay, because I am a mama bear when it comes to my kids.
Well, she says that you didn't let your daughter participate. What does she mean by that?
There was a jumpy house. She's 15 and a half. At the time, she's 16 now. So she was 15 and a half and was going to meet her friends. Okay, was already dressed and was coming with me to drop off clothes, her old clothes, to a friend I know. You know, I said, we'll come to the event.
Right.
I'll give you the clothes. I'll have them in my trunk. There's not a lot. You can put it under the carriage. And what was my daughter going to do in a jumpy house?
Right. So you didn't let her go in the jumpy house because of her age. But obviously she's lying, right? Because she says, and I just want to, I'm sorry, just move on, because she says that she's never seen you before. She doesn't know what you look like, yet she knows that you were a bad mom at her event, or the event she says is hers, right? So, I mean, there's a contradiction, right? She obviously is lying. And so I don't know what else. I mean, what else we say about that?
And here's the other thing. I want to make sure that this is clear. Every single one of the council people I've had conversations with, every single one of them, you know, we already know about Councilman Rubo and the controversy we've had over the seniors, and he thinks they're little old ladies sitting in a rocking chair, you know, knitting a hat, when they are extremely, as you saw, he found out that day, they're extremely vibrant. They're amazing individuals who are us, actually, just a few years older. You know, Councilman Morante, go ask him. I sent him an email. What's going on with the Con Ed thing that we had? What was the name of that program?
The Westchester. But yeah,
my opinion.
I just want to stick to Tasha. Right.
But she's saying that it's just her. It's not just her.
Right.
Every single one. I believe the only one I haven't spoken to is probably Corazon. That's, I don't think.
Well, of course. Well, she's, you know, she lies. I mean, obviously she's lying. You know, like I said, you've reached out to all the council members. Everybody in politics here in the city of Yonkers knows who you are. You've spoken to them in one capacity or another. County legislators in one capacity of another or another. But she's obviously saying this to try to diminish who you are, what you've done, and make you to seem like you're just nobody, someone who's complaining. And that's what they've done to you for a long time. I see, based on just what I've seen in the short amount of time, that's where they try to pigeonhole you right into this person that just complains. She nags, something's wrong with her. She's mad because her son didn't get a job. They do all this, and that's just the tactic, right? Like where they try to pigeonhole me, but they can't, because I come up out that hole, you know, and I come out swinging, and I put them in their hole that they belong to, like the pedophile there, who I just released all his information of a conviction for sex offense, right? So, and here she is to the next one. But then she goes on to say that you are called Feeding Westchester to try to get the her distribution canceled. Did you call Feeding Westchester?
I did not call. I did not know. She said I wrote a letter. That is an absolute lie.
Excuse me.
I'm going to play it.
It's 100% absolute lie.
It's different forms.
I'm sorry. I want to play that part what she said, then we'll talk about what she says.
Food distribution is over. Just to let you know, my job is not done. I'm delivering to about 9, 10 o'clock at night. But these are things that you don't know and you don't see. But you keep constantly attacking me.
But you know what? I do know and I do see, because I have been.
You don't know
that is not
and
right.
You don't see. Well, she said it at that page. I don't want to look through it, go crazy looking for it. I want to move on to the next video. But she says that you called Feeding Westchester and you tried to get it canceled, but instead it backfired on you because she got another location. Is that true?
Yeah, but you know, and here's the thing. That's an absolute lie. I would never see, this is how petty she is. And you can play. I sent you a little portion of what happened when she was up with the residents on Yonkers Avenue. This is a woman that she has anger issues. Yeah. And then the little snippet, the little video I sent you.
Well, let me play it and we'll talk about it. I want to play this snippet. This is a video that Carolyn wanted me to play on here to show, I guess, you know, what the majority leader does. Oh, I'm sorry. I got it on mute. Such a short video. It plays quickly. And all right. Here we go.
in doing so. So if I can continue with the list of concerns, after that, then if someone wants to speak, they can speak, as long as they don't call me out my name. Because last time I remember, my name was Tasha Diaz. Not a cunt, not a bitch, not none of that. That right there is verbal abuse, and I will not stand for it. Yes, I am an elected official, but I'm not going to stand here because an elected official is a thankless job. And I've been in this building before I was an elected official. So that's how you know I care in doing so. So if I
Well, she said that her name is not the B word, not the C word. It's Tasha Diaz, and being an elected official is a thankless job, and and so everything else. And I get it. And maybe she was upset, but is that the way you express yourself?
No, it's not. That's not the way an elected official represents herself or her district. So she was attacking these women, and I watched the whole thing. It was quite long, and if you watch the whole thing, they were fighting for themselves. They were, they were fighting for their building, and she just started going at them, fighting with them, and they were trying to get their point across. She ended up calling the police on them, and this is not the first time this woman has done this.
No.
There were people that came to her at one of her food drives, and she called the police on them also, refused to talk to them. Meanwhile, you're getting paid with taxpayer money. That is your job, to listen to them. You might not like what they're saying or agree with what they're saying, but it is your job to listen to them. Let them have a voice.
Right.
And that's not what she did. And here's another thing. She says, what was I doing? During the whole pandemic, myself and another mother, single parent, co-founded Yonkers Parent Seeking Solutions,
Right.
because we didn't have enough Chromebooks for the children. So we had parents calling us, a mother with 5 children, saying, I have one in first grade, one in senior. Which one do I let use the Chromebook? She had one Chromebook. So
right, and I'm playing that. I'm sorry not to cut you off, but I'm playing that video now. And another video where you're on the Yonkers Voice. See, again, this is why I can't stand the guy. Honestly, he's such a liar. Actions, not words. He's doing a video here. He's dead smack in the middle of it, and you're on there, right? You're on there. You're a part of it. You're talking and speaking out, along with Christine Peters, who's also another founding member of the Yonkers Parent Seeking Solution. And you guys have been, champion for advocating for our students, our kids in the Yonkers public schools, right? More so than. And
here's the funny thing.
These individuals.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
The funny thing is, I've always been behind the scenes. I was always behind the scenes, even with the seniors. It was there. They were a year before me. They were already advocating to the mayor and different politicians to help them. I just helped them come to social media. Okay, so I always stood behind the scenes. Here, I had no choice. It was a pandemic. We reached out to Michael Sussman, who is the famous lawyer with the desegregation case, and we said we have these children that don't have the means, and with 75%, you just discussed it last night, of our children that are in need in the Yonkers Public School. Okay, we needed the Chromebook, and he stepped up and for pro bono joined our coalition of parents to say, and wrote several letters to Yonkers Public Schools to say, hey, we're putting you on notice. These children are not getting the education, and you're still getting the money. So was I sitting home just playing on computer all day during a pandemic?
Right.
We were having conversations to 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, parents reaching out to us, talking to parents. Christine and I reached into our own pockets to buy Chromebooks. Other parents on the coalition did the same thing, reached out. And then we started having people give us anonymous donations to one of the other moms. And she bought, I forgot how many Chromebooks was, maybe 35, 40 Chromebooks.
And my wife.
And then we had also Mike Cater's sister, in honor of her son, may he rest in peace. She reached in her pocket and it's like, here, let me go give out these Chromebooks, bought a bunch of Chromebooks. So it was a community.
Yeah, I mean, my wife,
effort.
Believe it or not, she didn't even mention this to me till way after. I didn't even know. She was sitting at home one day, right, while we were all home with the pandemic and online, and she applied for a grant. And she got the grant. She actually got the money. It was $5,000, and she just gave it to the YCPTA, the Yonkers PTAs or whatever. And so what they ended up doing was buying Chromebooks with that, the laptops or whatever, for students who needed it. And she could have done anything with that. She could have did whatever she wanted.
Right.
But she did that, and she told no one, not even her own husband. I didn't even know. I'm like, honey, like, you got to tell people about this, like, especially now that I'm realizing if you don't speak up, then people say, what have you been doing? You're just behind the computer all day, and you're just blah, 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 blah. Mind you, we're out there in the street because we don't videotape ourselves, everything we do, every little single thing, taking a picture, right? I love it when they take a picture and they're holding the food that they're donating to the people in need of food and then smiling. Look at me, I'm giving these poor people food. Ain't I somebody? And I didn't pay for it.
And that's the thing. All these years that I've been doing this, I have pictures, but not pictures I'm going to put on there. Why would it? And listen, and here's the other thing. She claims, hey, I'm the face of affordable housing. I'm the face. There was a period of time where, I was in a domestic violence relationship. I ended up with Section 8. I had Section 8. So what does my case look like? You know what I mean? I was in a Section 8 apartment. I was working, had a job. Okay, was doing, and as I climbed up the ladder and my education got higher, I was like, okay, pass the income. Here you go. Thank you for helping me. So
and you would think that someone would become an elected official, majority leader, and all that, and then they'll come up and step up, right? Because she's saying, "What do you do, Freddie? What do you do?" She's always asking, "What do people do?" I have a lot of time on my hands. Well, I'm a boss, right? I have employees. I can step aside. I can do this because I know things are getting done. I can call my office, right? What are you doing? How are you contributing, right? Because feeding Westchester doesn't need her, right? She can step out of the equation and it still get done. Right?
Absolutely. And if anything, these politicians are putting the non-for-profits in jeopardy because there is an IRS law.
Right. You wanted to talk about that.
Where they're not supposed to be associating with the politicians, with their little cards running for office and their little bags running for office.
And many times you see
you're
that.
legally not allowed to do that.
Right. Many times you see that. You see a lot of, you see the specific organizations, the ones that, that they like. And then they'll do a bunch of different events with them, but they're 501c3s and they're not supposed to mingle that. And there have been foundations out there, nonprofits that have put elected officials, names on the bags or judges on the bags and handed out things, through their organization, but promoting the politician. And that's a no-no. That's actually legal. It's against the law. And, you can check that out on the IRS website. But, again, this is the City of Hills. City of Hills.
Yeah. Yeah, but you know what? What about the people? Because the people, you're sitting there taking a picture when somebody's in a pandemic, like, look what I did. Look what I did. That's all they know how to do is pat themselves on the back.
And let me tell you, folks,
don't say anything about it.
For those who are not there,
I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry I cut you off. I just reminded of something. For those who are not there and they see those pictures, it's just that quick minute, guys. They're gone like that. All right. I've been there and I watched and I was like, damn. What fakeness, Are you ready for the? Okay, yeah. Put the gloves on real quick. Put them back. Okay, hey. Okay, cool. Hey, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you. I'm out of here. Peace out. That's really how it goes. Yeah. See, I'm in the community. I'm in up in No Dine Hill in the morning. Nobody's paying me to do that. I just had to see, stop and talk about it. All that garbage and stuff there, and it's the smell, and I couldn't help it. Right. So I do that because I care about the community. And I give my time and I go with people to their hearings, right? Because I promised them to do that. And I would do that for anyone, right? If I tell you I'm going to do that. So, it's not for photo ops. We're not here for photo ops.
Right.
That's what they do. She's, obviously a liar. You've done a lot. I've seen you doing a lot. There are many people that will support you from young to seniors that will say you've done a lot in the community, right? What else do you want? I'm sorry, Karen. I was just going to tell you, what else do you want them to know? The city of Yonkers, because you've been around a lot. All right. Is there anything else you want to speak about that you want the city to know? You want to get off your chest while you have the opportunity here on Basement Politics?
I don't think you have long enough because what I've seen since 1993 as a mother, as an advocate, as a caseworker, I've seen services decline in the Yonkers public schools severely. My oldest, who's 31, went from having wrestling. Every school had wrestling. Who had football? Every school had football. And taking these things away, you're taking away that, school cheer, that, that spirit that each
community
has, Yes. And like these schools, Gordon and Roosevelt at one time were like, they were competing. Who's going to win? Who's going to win? Who was the best? And that energy of these kids and wanting to come there and wanting to be a part of this. And, and then Gordon won, the championship. And, it was like, oh, we'll get the next year,
Right. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. That's what's teaching our children, that, going forward in life, learning how to, win, lose, and that spirit that they have and that want to come to school.
And giving them something productive,
taking that away.
Something positive and productive that they can, gravitate towards and focus their energy on. and it could lead to something, right? That's what I have always done. I didn't know what I was gonna do in life, I just knew I didn't want to, not do nothing with my life. So I just always try to put myself in something positive, something I was interested in. But I was in an area, in an environment where they had these opportunities. They had these. I literally was in a pilot's program in high school. I would spend half the day at the airport, and I literally got to taxi a plane on the runway, take the plane off, and land. I mean, I did that in high school, for free. And that was just the most amazing thing. And, I wanted to be a pilot at one point, but either way, I got to explore all my different, whatever I thought was interested at that time. And so these are just things that are so important. Keeps them out of trouble. It helps them find something that they love and that they're good at, that they can get positive, reinforcement for, and it can lead them to, a successful life, breaking the cycle of poverty for 75% of them.
Absolutely. And here's the thing. You look at the teachers' salaries. I believe you said it's up to 75%.
72% for the teachers.
72%. Okay, and you want to know how it got that high? And listen, I have no problem with a teacher making $150,000. I love teachers. I have 3 teachers, one with each child, that is still a family. Okay, my problem is that their salaries got so high is because every time a politician was going to run for office, they would end up there. Just so happens they would wait to negotiate their contracts.
Right.
And this is not just this, let's make this clear. This is not just a bash against Bono, okay? This is going on since, like I said, that I'm aware of since 1993. So that's how many other, mayors that this has gone through. It's not just this administration. It's just, I feel this is, they've taken it to a whole.
Well, why did we? You would know, Carol. I'm sorry, not to cut you off. Why did we lose so much? Sure. Why did the schools lose so much of these programming, the sports, and all that stuff? Because I mean, I was in my own world, right? What happened? Why did we lose all that stuff?
Well, a lot of it has to do with the funding. A lot of it has to do with, when we had Crosio there, he had a very limited administration. Casada allegedly has a very large administration. So you're talking 6-figure salaries that you're taking away from the children.
But I mean, who made the decision, right? I mean, I don't think it was Casada that made the decision, Dr. Casada, the superintendent, to remove these programs and to eliminate them. Who made that decision and why? Well, I mean, obviously it's a funding issue, but why, be that the solution, right?
I believe under him is where it became one football team, and he, said, "Oh, this is great." Again, nobody that's in play right now is fully responsible for where we're at in this city with the not enough affordable housing, with the schools, how horrible they are. You have 3 people manning the students that are out of district, 3 people, and 3 amazing people. Okay, and how do you expect 3 people to handle? And you got to look at the budget. I don't know how many are out of district right now. 800. It was 600 or 800.
800 are out of.
Okay, 800. Okay, so 800 for 3 people. That's not even doable, especially if you have children that have, needs and problems in their placement. That's just there. We're so behind on our special education, and I think it came up in one of the meetings I was watching. I forgot how many millions, 1 or 2 million, because the question was asked, what do we need to get to where we need to be? And I believe, and don't quote me, 1 or 2 million or something to get where we need to be. Because we have children today that their IEPs are being violated. And as you know, your wife did a wonderful presentation last night
thank you.
On how that is a contract. And people need to realize, and here's another thing with Yonkers Parents Seeking Solutions. We wanted to do a Parents' Bill of Rights like they have in New York City. If you Google New York City Parents' Bill of Rights, they are very forward with saying, giving parents their Bill of Rights. This is what
what is that, a Bill of Rights? Because I've heard about that. How will that help parents? How is that effective in getting parents what it is that they need?
Well, parents need to understand, what their rights are. There's a lot, and listen, I'm one of those parents, and I have a college education. That my child has an IEP, my youngest, and I had to figure out, and I'm, I'm educated in everything that has to do with, education, housing. Right. And I had to stop and take a lay advocacy course with Denise Green with Westchester Putnam Independent Living for special education, because there's just so much that you don't know what their rights are. So, and a lot of other parents in the community, the PTA took the courses with me, and, they don't understand that, if your child's not getting their speech this many days, then that's a problem. You
Right.
can
And
say
you
to
have
them, okay, well, where are you going to make it up?
you have many parents that are, their kids, their children are English language learners. So I would imagine that the parents themselves do not speak English. They speak some other language, and so for them to advocate, I would imagine is extremely difficult, right? And so you have kids that come from homes of immigrants who don't speak the language, falling between the cracks, and then you have parents who just are not involved many times, or not engaged. You have a segment of population like that, and it is what it is. And then you have some parents that just they want to advocate, but they don't even know where to turn to, even though they speak English,
Right.
and they have some familiarity with the schools, excuse me, right? But so I always say, if the parents who make the most noise get the squeaky wheel gets the oil, right? They get attended
Squeaky
to.
wheel.
However, if you don't really make noise in a certain way, right, you have to know these rights, right? You have to know what you're talking about in order to make noise, and then that's how you hopefully get help. But there's so many that just are falling between the cracks for that reason, for those reasons I mentioned. How do we address that?
Right.
And I know you don't work in the schools now, but how do we address that?
Right. Well, even Mike Cater brought it to the table when he was city council president about having this come forward, and they were fighting him on it because, first of all, you don't know. Sometimes you're not aware of what the issue is. You might know that your child is having trouble in this one particular area, but you don't know where to go to get that help. So what type of doctor is that? You go to the pediatrician first, and that's really where you should start if you're younger. So it's navigating a system that's not very parent friendly.
Right.
The great part is, though, you have some amazing teachers in the Yonkers Public Schools that, they become like family to you. They're there because they care from the bottom of their heart.
And I've had some.
Those are the teachers. Oh,
I've had some. I was just talking about some too earlier today about to someone I was speaking to about two teachers I remember very well because of how great they were, and they believed in me. And like the city council president said, I was good with my hands when we talked about what I got in trouble for in school was, I just got into fights, but I wasn't disrespectful. And they always said great things to my mom when she would come into the school. They never badmouthed me, so I still remember them to this day. And also an assistant principal I had by the name of Mr. Chiaffi. I believe his name is Anthony Chiaffi, and I think he's still with the school systems now. He actually interviewed my wife, which I thought was pretty cool because I've always spoke about him to her. So she knew this guy from my stories, and then she got to meet him. So just the impact that he made, right, on my life, that I still talk about him to this day. So they're amazing. There are a lot of amazing teachers and administrators and staff in the Yonkers Public Schools.
Oh, and it just takes one. It takes that one to believe in your child and believe that they can do it and push that child to know that they can, believe in themselves. And that's where, we're blessed to have that in the Yonkers Public Schools. There's countless in each school, that are that person for that child.
So how do we change, Carolyn? I got a few minutes left here. How do we move in the right direction here, right? And obviously it takes elected officials. It also takes the city and residents, the people of the city of Yonkers, to also push forward, speak out. And I see many people starting to do that. It's great. But how do we move forward? How do we get our schools, our city, to the place that, it's fair for everyone, right? We have more equality. It's not just about the very rich, that it seems to be luxury apartments and everything that are coming in, the Lions Gates and all that. But it's also for the people, the 75% of the student body that are living at or below the poverty line. How do we help improve them? How do we get the sports back into the schools? How do the officials play a role in that? I'll let you answer that.
Okay. So vote. We need to get people registered. We need people to get out there and vote. We need to have them, realize who are they voting for, not just because there's a letter near their name that means that they're the best person to vote for. Where they're talking about eliminating term limits. I know somebody that actually called the FBI, and I laughed. I said, for what? They didn't do anything yet. And said, well, I'm going to make sure they know that they're going to eliminate those term limits beforehand. It was a senior. And I was like, okay, but that's like, that guy's going to rob the bank, but he didn't rob the bank.
Well, Carolyn's referring to, just really quick, What Karen's referring to,
Yeah.
for maybe people who might not know, is that there's talk among, the political insiders, people that are in the know, people that know politics, that are following politics, that term limits, they're looking to do away with term limits. So that way the mayor may run again. And I've mentioned this on podcasts before. They did extend it, the last time to include a third term. But now it's not about a full term, but doing away with term limits altogether. And a lot of people very much oppose that.
Right. And it's the point. It sounds better than another term. This way, we just eliminate them all together. And term
well, how
limits,
does that?
term
How does that get us to a point where we, how do we as the community, as the people of Yonkers, what do we have to do? How do we get to that point where the schools start to improve and bring back these programs, these more robust music arts programs? What is it that we have to do as voters, as people of the community?
We need to bring somebody in that doesn't have the ties to the community as who we have here now. Unfortunately, the way it's run now, it's set up where it's the politicians that are becoming rich, and they are, taking from the taxpayers. I'm trying to say this in a nice way. I mean,
so you're basically saying
it's a whole nother podcast, Fred.
Yeah, we need the politicians to focus on the community first. Put the community first, not to make decisions, votes that serve to only enrich themselves and their rich donors, their developer donors, and these individuals that have a vested interest only to make money. Right? We have a vested interest because this is our community. Right? I just want to read a comment real quick by somebody. My name is Jeff Meyer. I live in Tuckahoe. I have absolutely no dog in the fight of Yonkers politics. In my church, Ridgeway Church, White Plains, pays 10 administrators. Ridgeway of Church of White Plains that pays for and staffs and administers several food pantries in Yonkers and all of Westchester County. We absolutely do not do politics at our distributions at Chicken Island, Iglesia San Andreas, at the flea market, lot at 420 in Abraham. We are strictly a volunteer ministry and endeavor is fully funded by the donations of our congregation. Okay.
No, and I actually, for years, for the last year and a half, 2 years, have pushed his food drives. He's an amazing human being. I've never met him personally. Followed him on Facebook, and I never said it was all the non-for-profits. It definitely is not. It was some though, and the point being that I don't know which letter she's talking about.
You have wrote a letter to Feeding Westchester, the organization, and I'm not sure what the gentleman here is talking about. I don't know. I mean,
no,
go ahead.
He runs a lot of great food drives.
Jeffrey Meyer.
I always forward it to different. Yeah.
Okay.
Wonderful man.
Shout out to you, Jeffrey
Again,
Meyer.
I never met him, but yeah, and again, I've never written any letters. I've never called on any non-for-profits. I am a non-for-profit girl my whole life. That's what I
listen,
for.
If the
know what type of salary that
if the majority leader is going to make that accusations, well, then show some supporting evidence. Say, listen, look, here's what I did. This is what she did, and she called, and she's trying to, listen, and then that's what you did. Then Carolyn, shame on you. Shame on you. But until then, it's just an allegation.
Absolutely
one
not.
of many allegations made by the elected officials against you. You're a scammer. You're calling Feeding Westchester. You're not a great mom. You don't do anything but stand behind the computer and complain all day on Facebook. That's who you are, right? In a nutshell.
And this is the woman that is getting flip-flops on her own account thrown at her, fighting with the constituents, sitting there, and you talked about her. What did she go in and threaten her daughter's boss? That's a
right. Yeah, she's threatened to shut down businesses.
Let me go threaten her.
She's threatened other constituents because she's threatened council members. She's threatened a lot of people, and that's why I say that's why I speak about you, Majority Leader. It's not because I'm intrigued by you. Well, I am a little bit intrigued. It's very intriguing to see a council member behave in such a manner, isn't it? It intrigues us all because we all like to watch a train wreck. Right. Well, Carolyn. I'm sorry, I want to let you go. I'm running out of time here, but I want to thank you for coming on the show. Did we cover everything? Anything that's just important that you really want to, before I let you go? If not, we wrap it up here. I want to make sure I gave you the opportunity to say all the important things.
It was uncalled for. It was a question I asked, not an attack. We want to make that very clear that we need accountability from our politicians. And here's the other thing too, just so you know, if you go on there and look, she answered some of the people under the Yonkers Boys interview under Tasha Diaz and blocked me because people sent it to me saying, here, she's under Tasha Diaz, her personal page, because you're not allowed legally to block anybody on your professional page,
Oh, really?
but yet she answered them in the capacity of a city councilwoman. So that's not too smart, but look what we're dealing with, you know. So
well, the point
fact
is,
that you think you blocked me,
yeah.
you know, I wouldn't have said anything more anyway. How can you argue with stupid? You just can't. You
well,
need
you
to
know,
move forward,
I think the best thing for her to have
take it
done,
from where it comes.
yeah, I think the best thing for her to have done is to just completely ignore it. I mean, just focus on what it is that you are doing, Tasha Diaz. If you are accomplishing such great things, ignore it all. Don't answer anyone.
And here's one more thing.
It's not a good look for you.
Don't be a hypocrite and live, if you don't mind. Don't be a hypocrite and live in low-income housing. The reason I brought that up is because you stop the ability for that to happen for other parents, for other children, that we are desperately in need of affordable housing. Maybe you're a senior citizen. You stop that, but yet you're living there. So that's what my point was. That's hypocritical. How do you do that?
Right.
How do you, and again, remember, stop with the I-itis.
Right.
Okay? You're there to represent the community. And if you don't want advocates like myself there, then if you do your job, the constituents don't need advocates.
Right.
And that's the point I'd like to make.
Well, thank you so much, Carolyn. I appreciate you coming on the show, joining me on Basement Politics. And I want to see more people come out and speak out. This is what Basement Politics is here for. This is what the platform has been created to provide those who do not normally have a voice to have a voice. I appreciate the support. Thank you, everyone. And by the way, that stuff with the Yonkers voice, hey, listen, I don't agree with it. I think our city elected officials need to stop associating themselves and funding a man that was convicted of sexual crimes. He's a convicted sex offender. And I posted that stuff up on my page, and I think it's okay. I don't agree with it. The victims never forget. I'm Freddie Vasquez. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for the support. Thank you, Carolyn Elizabeth Marie. I appreciate you joining me, being brave and bold and coming out and speaking out to people that about people that many are afraid of. But you came out and did it. And how they made that building on School Street supposedly affordable, but it's expensive. Is it? How expensive is it? How expensive is it? I don't know. Nothing is what it seems here in the city of Yonkers. Folks, I'm Freddie Vasquez. Thank you for joining me. Check out the evening rush hour report. I talked about defamation. I broke the Mike Cater lawsuit, defamation lawsuit against everybody in the city council, including Liam McLaughlin, Ron Mattin, and a woman by the name of Roseanne Gallego. Why is he suing a woman by the name of Roseanne Gallego or whatever? Gallego, husband Dennis Gallego of the now defunct Yonkers Ethics Boards. Why is that? Watch the show. I explain it all. I break it all down. He's suing folks for over $1 million. Well, $1 million plus interest and any legal fees incurred and other things. Breaking news. Defamation lawsuits. I'm Freddie Vasquez. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you soon.
I was raised in housing. I don't think you were. I want.
In another one, Mr. Rubo lied to me. And I don't vote for a person that lied to me. Thank you very much.
Letting Helen off easy.
Are you doing interviews right now?
Yes, I sent that text message yesterday if you had any questions for the candidates.
Yes, but I thought it was going to be like after we went through the agenda, we would then do interviews. But I'm okay. I don't have any questions. I know. Okay. I think she's great. I think she'll be a great first deputy counsel.
Letting Helen off easy.
Are you doing interviews right now?
Let's get it popping.
Freddie wins. Fatality.
I was raised in housing. I don't think you were. I went to Yonkers public schools. I don't think you did. We can go on all night with this, honey.
Freddie wins. Fatality.
You're watching Basement Politics with my dad, Freddie Vasquez. You're watching Basement Politics with my dad, Freddie Vasquez.
Freddie wins.